If you think that you have to decide between moist or brown, I'm here to tell you today that you can actually have both. It's the most exciting thing in holiday cooking that has come to the internet in the last 5 minutes at least. I got news for you. Hey everyone, it's Chef Todd Moore again, and I told you that I would be with you throughout this entire holiday season to try and make it the best that we ever had together. And I wanted to be here again live on a Saturday and welcome all our carefree cooks and everyone who's continually joining us. That's great because I've got a lot of stuff that I want to share with you, and it's Thanksgiving holiday week here in the US, and I know the questions that I get, and I get tons of them from now through the end of the year, is the busiest time for a teaching chef. And I want to give you something today that is really, really impactful. And I was going to cook 6 whole turkeys to demonstrate this today, but I didn't. I'll show you what I did do instead, because the biggest challenge for home cooks, the questions that I get most often, is this battle between moist and brown. Everybody wants that nice brown turkey or browned roast, you know, that's nice and caramely on the outside. The problem is most of the time to get that, you have to dry your item out because you're cooking it in an oven. And an oven is a metal box that sucks moisture out of things. It's a drying cooking device. But here's the thing, if you're a carefree cook, if you're a student of web cooking classes, you know that you're not going to cook by time, right? Most of these turkey people will tell you cook for X amount of minutes at X amount of pounds. See, I don't even know what it is because I don't follow that whatsoever. The keys to cooking are controlling the heat. So if you have a metal box that draws moisture out of things, how do you stop it from drawing moisture? Or how do you add moisture? And really, the key to cooking, the key to being a carefree cook is being able to recognize the effects of heat on food. So this enables you to anticipate what's going to happen to your Thanksgiving bird, your holiday roast, your rack of lamb, your delicate whole fish that you're roasting, any of these things that you're putting in the oven this holiday season. You shouldn't be surprised by it. You should be able to anticipate it. I always make the analogy of a painter. What if you were a painter and you dabbed your brush and you touched it to the canvas and you went, oh my God, it's blue. I'm shocked. That blue color is blue. Like, if you're surprised at the outcomes of these things, then let's go back and understand the hows and whys behind it. And really, there are 2 things that affect browning more than anything else in your turkey, in your roast, in your lamb, and in the 6 turkeys I was going to roast for you today. And this is moisture and fat. Plain and simple. Being able to control the moisture, because moisture inhibits the caramelization of sugars, and the fats can actually help promote it. So no, I didn't cook 6 turkeys for you today, but I did want to illustrate this point. So what did I cook for you? I cooked tofu. I decided, did you really want to see me cook 6 whole turkeys and waste all? No, I went to the store and I got some tofu. This is going to make my vegetarian friends very, very happy. So I got some pieces of tofu, and what has more moisture in it than this pressed soybean curd that I do like. I love it in a pad thai, things like that. I'm not here to make fun of tofu. It is going to be my guinea pig, which has nothing to do with vegetarians. It's going to be my demonstration of how to retain moisture and still brown things. So I took this tofu and I cut it into 4, actually 6 pieces. And you can see I used a pile of paper towels there. It took about an hour, always resting the tofu on the paper towel, turning it over, changing the paper towels. It's about half a roll of paper towels to get as much moisture out of the tofu as if it were a turkey or a roast or a rack of lamb or a delicate fish or anything. You're getting the analogy, right? Thumbs up if you understand the analogy, what I'm talking about today. This is our turkey, or this is our roast. So it's filled with moisture. First thing, if I want to brown it, is to get a lot of the moisture out. The next thing that I did was weigh all the pieces of tofu so I could see how much moisture I'm losing in the oven and how much water weight it loses. And I did 3 things, and I wanted to show you these 3 things and the results of it. So back here is my tofu. There are actually 6 pieces of tofu. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And here are the notes that I took. So what I have here is, number 1, I cut a notch in this piece of tofu. See, 1 notch in that piece of tofu and 2 notches in that piece of tofu, 3 notches in that one and 4 notches in the other, so I could tell which was which. In the first one, RP stands for roasted plain. I roasted this one in the oven with nothing put on it. Number 2, roasted fat. This one with 2 notches, got some olive oil put on it and roasted in the oven. Number 3 was broiled plain. Number 4 here was broiled with fat. So here's the idea that I wanted to try and get across to you today. When I add these items together, okay, the ones that were roasted went in the oven like you would your turkey for a long period of time. It was a linear cooking method. It is from the top down. You add heat, you add heat, you add heat. The only problem is if you know the effects of heat on food, as you're adding heat, trying to get that thing to brown up on the top, you are losing the most moisture possible. The roasted items spend the most time in the oven, and the oven is a drying device. The ones back here that I said that I broiled, okay, these 2 got direct conductive heat. They were put under the broiler for a much shorter amount of time, and you can see the difference. They are obviously much browner, all right? These 2 had olive oil put on them. These 2 were done plain. So what's the result here? You can see, obviously, the ones that are a little bit browner, but when I look at my notes page here, you can see number 1 started out at 2.2 ounces. When it was done, it was 1.5 ounces. Number 1, roasted in the oven plain, lost 35% of its weight, even as I pulled moisture out of it so that it would brown. Number 2 started out at 2.3 ounces, and you can see it lost 31% of its weight. The ones that I put under the broiler, similarly, not as bad, lost 26% right there of its weight and 27% of its weight. The oil having no effect on the evaporation of moisture on the tofu. The oil, though, having an effect on the way that the item was browned. So the one over here, a little bit browner than that one. The one over here, a little bit browner than that one. It also gives you a fat coating that does help retain some of the moisture. As you can see on my notes, it was a 0.1 ounce difference, the fat holding things in. All right, so I don't want things to lose 30% of my weight. I want it to be brown and I want it to be moist. That's the whole point, and that's where the bottom-up cooking method comes in. Before I show you the result of how to do that, I want to tell you the worst Thanksgiving story that I have. Of all people ask me, Chef, you must have cooked a lot of Thanksgiving dinners, and I did. When I was executive chef at the hospital, we opened the entire cafeteria up to the public. Anybody could come in for Thanksgiving dinner. But the worst one I had was when I was when I owned my catering company. I had a client, they were a big trucking firm, and they were going to do a potluck lunch kind of thing at work for Thanksgiving, and they contacted me and they said, can you do the turkeys? Like, we're going to do the mashed potatoes and the green beans potluck. Can you do the turkeys? I normally don't like to mix food, you know, but it must have been early in my catering company because I jumped at it, at the money. But luckily I said, look, we're going to do turkey breasts instead of whole turkey. There's too much waste. And she said, great, can you get it here by noon? That day, I've got all the turkeys in the oven, the turkey breasts. I'm getting there. The phone rings at 9:30, and the woman says to me, hey, can we move it up to 10 a.m.? From noon? Can you move it up 2 hours? Well, the client always being right, I said, okay, let's do that. Pull the turkey breasts out of the oven, slice all of them. They're all semi-raw at this point, but I want to increase the surface area on the turkey. Slice all of them, lay them on sheet pans, put them under the broiler, conductive direct heat, the quickest way I can think of to cook these turkeys, to try and get them there on a 2-hour time period that she moved up on, right? It was a terrible disaster. They were so dried out from the broiling. This client, she set me up for another disaster that I'll tell you about at another time. But the point here is that there is a way of combination cooking, which is the bottom-up cooking method. And this is the combination of the two. So this is where I would turn the broiler on at first, and broil the top of it. Cook it as hot as I can for the first few minutes and brown it first. And then I would take the direct heat from above away and roast the item. And what I did was I had 2 more pieces of tofu, no notches cut out of them, and that's exactly what I did. I broiled them on the top first, and then I roasted them in the oven to finish, just the way that I would do my turkey or my roast. And you can see they're not as brown as the totally broiled one, but they're not as plain as the totally roasted one. But here is the difference, and this is the payoff now for what we're talking about today. Because on my notes, you can see where the others lost 30, 31, 27, and 26%. The ones that were cooked in a combination method, browning the top first and then finishing it in the oven. Now, granted, I wasn't doing it to an internal temperature like you would a roast or a turkey or something. But look, they only lost 5 and 9% of the moisture. They started out at 2.2 ounces like the rest of them did, but then it only weighed 2 ounces at the end. So the point today being, you can apply the direct heat and get it really, really brown, right? Like that one, but it's going to lose 30% of its moisture. You can roast it for a long time in the oven. It's not going to be particularly brown, and it's still going to lose 27% of its moisture. Or you can practice the bottom-up cooking method, where you brown things at the highest temperature first, and then you bring it down and slowly cook it to an internal temperature. That's the whole idea with the bottom-up cooking method. Now, what am I going to do with all this tofu? I'm really not sure right now. But the lesson today is be mindful of the effects of heat on food. You're not just cooking by time and oven temperature. Cooking your roast, cooking your turkey, retaining the moisture of it so you get something that is brown and you get something that is moist means being really respectful and really aware of the effects of heat on food. Look, if you're afraid of your turkey drying out after you brown the top of it, then go ahead and put tin foil on it because you're trapping moisture at that point. But don't just put it in the oven for an endless amount of time, hoping that it's going to brown up, especially if there's a lot of moisture in it already, if you haven't dried it with paper towels and things like that. This is one of the things I really want us to have the best holiday season ever this year. And if you're serious about wanting to create the best meal ever with precision, with confidence, with the effects of heat on food in mind, if you want to really be a member of your family enjoying the meal instead of pretending like you're the caterer this year, I can show you exactly how to do that, and I've got a free online class that's going on this week. Go to webcookingclasses.com/success and hold your spot in my holiday cooking success class. Thank you so much for spending these few minutes with me. I'm glad I was able to illustrate the combination bottom-up cooking method that's going to make your oven work even better than it has ever worked before, and it's the same old oven. But hey, it's Chef Todd Moore. Until next time, reminding you that there's a method to your holiday cooking success. See you soon, everyone. Bye.